Our reporter Rick Glauert is live for us in the southern city of Tainan. That's where the storm is expected to make landfall. Rick, what's the situation where you're at?
Well, we're really beginning to get a taste of what Typhoon Krathon is going to bring. Wind and rain noticeably increasing over the last 2 hours. As we've driven through town just now, we've seen trees down, we've seen the rivers full of water. And just before we came on air, a government warning was sent to everyone's phones, telling people to stay away from coastal areas because they're simply too dangerous. Concerns here that the low pressure at the centre of the storm could bring a storm surge and therefore widespread flooding. We spent some time in Amping district, a port district of Tainan, looking at a community facing up to this big storm. 82-year-old shopkeeper Hu Yuxia is determined to stay here in the home she's lived in for more than 60 years, despite a storm warning and local officials' advice for her to move to safer ground. Hu lives alone, just meters from the waterfront in Taiwan's southern port city of Tainan.
当然会怕我一个人啊，我自己一个人啊，很害怕，我也是一样躲在里面的。
The full force of Typhoon Krathon is set to hit here in just a few hours, following a rare trajectory coming in from the west around Taiwan's southern tip to strike large urban centres like Tainan. Close to 70,000 people live in this ancient port district of Amping. Many of their houses are close to harbours and rivers and therefore liable to flooding. The local government has been keeping residents updated on the typhoon's progress, and there's even an app for them to check rising water levels. Residents have been advised to stock 3 days of food and supplies, and should they need to flee their homes, 16 evacuation centres have been set up to accommodate them. More than a dozen pumps across this district are moving water out of drains in an attempt to keep streets clear.
所以说目前来讲的话，应该是我们安平这边民众应该是还好，但还是会有一些焦虑的，只是应该是会平常心看待的。
Taiwan is prone to both earthquakes and typhoons. Communities here regularly practice how to respond to disasters, but its trajectory makes this typhoon different from others and could bring a rare storm surge to cities in the country's southwest.
Most typhoons which are impacting Kaohsiung, Tainan, they've already gone across the central mountain range and are severely weakened, and it's going to be coming right off the ocean and impacting these areas. So it's going to be, you know, in very good condition. The typhoon is still going to have its very strong circulation. So my hunch is that these areas are going to experience like typhoon conditions which are very atypical to what they usually experience as the typhoons come in from the east.
It's just over 2 months since Taiwan's last typhoon, a storm that left 13 people dead and hundreds injured across the country. Many people here saying they learned lessons from that battering that they are now putting into practice. But Typhoon Krathon has already proven both atypical and unpredictable, sure to test even well-prepared communities like this port of Amping. Typhoon Krathon is still about 100 kilometres off the coast here. It has weakened in intensity, it's no longer considered a super typhoon, but it's also picked up speed. It's now moving at about 9 kilometres an hour in this direction, expected to make landfall not far from here tomorrow morning. The streets here in downtown Tainan now emptying, people heading home, making last-minute preparations, hunkering down as they wait for a long night, waiting for this big storm.